Welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a quick look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Our cover story tonight comes from Niger. If you have been following the news, you would be aware of the crisis in the country. It has been making headlines ever since the military coup there. And tonight on Gravitas, we tell you how the military there has been pinning its hopes on the Russian mercenary group, Wagner. That's right. And the question is, can Wagner really succeed? Can it save Niger's dictator general? Also, what lies ahead for the crisis-ridden country? What is the military's game plan? What is the next step going to be? We explore this and more over the next few minutes. Also on the show for you tonight, Pakistan wants to privatize its loss-making national carrier. But would you buy an airline whose pilots have fake licenses? Moody's downgrades 10 US banks. We tell you what led to this and how serious the crisis is. South Korea has a new blind dating initiative. What is the aim and will it really succeed in addressing the real issues? Artificial intelligence can steal your password. Beware. We tell you how you can safeguard yourself. A UK woman ended up buying all the peanut packets available on board a flight. We tell you why. Can Wagner save Niger's dictator general? Yes, I am talking about the Russian mercenary group, the one that fought in Ukraine, won Bakhmut for Russia, also led a mutiny against the Russian establishment. That mutiny failed. But there is a chance it can seal a victory for Niger's dictator general, Abdurrahman Ane Tijani. This man, he declared himself the head of state on the 28th of July, less than 10 days after Niger's elected president was captured by the military there. This man, Mohamed Bazoum. Ever since, things have only gone from bad to worse. Niger has been cut off from the regional bloc. Nigeria has cut off electricity supply to Niger. The people there are suffering and there are talks of a possible military intervention. This, let me remind you, is a country where 4.3 million people already need humanitarian assistance. The dictator general is relentless in his pursuit of absolute power. What is the way forward in the face of growing international pressure? The military does not appear to know. It is banking on Wagner to turn things around. But can it? Now, there are some things you should know first. For example, what led to the coup? Niger, by the way, has seen 4 military coups since its independence. In the year 2021, when Bazoum was elected president, there was a coup attempt just 48 hours before his inauguration. And 2 years later, the military successfully managed to overturn the longest democratic rule in the former French colony. Many came out on the roads cheering, celebrating the coup, one that was blamed on rising insecurity. Let's just pull out a map for you. This is where Niger is located, at the heart of the Sahel region, an area where terror groups like the ISIS, the Al-Qaeda are rapidly expanding. In the pretext of fighting terror, several countries have sent troops to Niger in the last few years. France, for that matter, has around 1,500 troops in Niger. The US, over 1,000 troops across 2 bases. Italy has around 300 troops. The European Union has at least 100 troops in Niger. And yet, together, these troops have somehow failed to check extremism and terrorism. Attacks on Niger's villages have become the new normal, as they have across the rest of the Sahel region. Today, the military is justifying the coup by citing three things primarily. One, like I mentioned, insecurity. Two, the lack of economic growth. And number three, what the junta has referred to as the quote-unquote gradual and inevitable demise of the country, courtesy foreign troops and terrorism. Those cheering the coup, by the way, were heard chanting, "Wagner, Wagner." This was thousands of miles away from Russia or the front lines of the Ukraine war. What role could the Wagner possibly have in Africa, you wonder? Now, those who watch this show regularly already know the answer. The Wagner mercenary group has been a household name in the Sahel region for a while now. It won't be wrong to call Wagner the face of Russia's ambitions in the global south. Wagner, after all, provides security in Mali, even Burkina Faso. It is working closely with the government forces, occasionally trading its military support for lucrative contracts, especially in the diamond mining industry. And today, Wagner not just has private troops in the Sahel region, but also contractors and shell companies. And very interestingly, although expectedly, Wagner's popularity in the region has been inversely proportional to the growing anti-Western sentiment in Africa. In Mali, Wagner began its operation in the year 2021. Today, the group works closely with the ruling military junta. It reportedly charges $10 million every month for its service. People in Niger see Wagner's presence in Mali pretty positively. But do they want to replicate a similar junta Wagner engagement in Niger as well? The junta clearly does not mind. A night before Tchani declared himself as the head of Niger, Prigozhin stuck his neck out. On the 27th of July, the Wagner chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin, bragged on Telegram, 1,000 Wagner fighters are able to restore order and destroy terrorists, preventing them from harming the civilian population. Yes, the man has re-emerged, unscathed from the failed mutiny, proud as ever, and now vowing to bring peace to Niger. On the 2nd of August, one of Niger's military generals reportedly visited Mali. This general, Salifo Moody, held meetings with the Wagner allied junta, and soon speculation grew of the possibility of a Wagner entry into Niger. And on the 5th of August, reports said during that visit to Mali, Niger's generals had actually asked Wagner for help. On the 7th, a Wagner-affiliated Telegram channel, in fact, said some 1,500 Wagner troops had been dispatched to Africa. Where to exactly is the immediate question. The group did not specify that. And then Prigozhin uploaded a message on Telegram. I'm quoting from it. "We are always on the side of the good, on the side of justice, and on the side of those who fight for their sovereignty and for the rights of their people." In other words, we are with the military junta of Niger. Whether or not we are already physically present in the country is none of your business. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is hell-bent on telling the world that the Wagner is not a force for good and that it is actually taking advantage of the situation in Niger. I'm quoting, "I think what happened and what continues to happen in Niger was not instigated by Russia or by Wagner, but they tried to take advantage of it." This is what Blinken told a British media network, adding, I'm quoting, "Every single place that this Wagner group has gone, death, destruction, and exploitation have followed." Now that's pretty rich coming from the US. Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, it's a long, long list and a story for another day. Anyway, this is where things stand as of now in Niger. The ECOWAS, or the Economic Community of West Africa States, had given a deadline for the junta to stand down and also restore the president, Bazoum. That deadline, by the way, expired on the 6th of August. Niger has now closed its airspace. Will ECOWAS intervene? And if yes, in what way? That decision will be taken at a meeting tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Wagner group seems to be the junta's best bet. The group has proven itself on the front lines of Ukraine. Militarily, Wagner will be able to guarantee power to the junta. It will also be the vehicle for Niger's junta to work even more closely with their counterparts in Mali, Burkina Faso. Russia, via Wagner, will also be happy to play the role of a protectorate. But here's the thing. Niger is not a Mali or a Burkina Faso. Western countries have spent millions on Niger's security. In Mali, when the Wagner troops marched in, the French military had to pack and leave. In Niger, the change of guard will not be so smooth. Wagner's entry can make Niger a flashpoint between the West and the Wagner. Many in Niger, in fact, are bracing for a fight. The military is looking to dig its heels deeper, and the people, well, does much really change for them? They have been suffering for long now. They have been colonized and oppressed by one force after another. First, it was the French, then the junta, and now it could be the Wagner group that becomes a global force at the cost of their suffering. Now, I have a question to ask. Would you buy an airline whose pilots have fake licenses? An airline that has a history of not paying its employees their salaries? I am assuming most of you would answer with a no. Too bad, the airline in question does not think so. An airline which is known for gross mismanagement and poor services. I'm talking about the Pakistan International Airlines, or PIA, the flag carrier of Pakistan. It will soon be up for sale. Islamabad plans to privatize it. Why is that? Well, because it's not making money. The PIA, in fact, is sinking into a sea of losses. It has accumulated hundreds of billions of rupees in losses and arrears. If we try to quantify it, its overall tax debt amounts to over 400 billion rupees, or $1.4 billion. 1.4 billion. That's a huge number. One that Pakistan cannot afford. You see, its coffers are drained. So what does it plan to do? It plans to privatize the PIA. The green signal was given after a meeting of the Economic Coordination Committee of the Cabinet, which was chaired by Pakistan's Finance Minister, Ishaq Dar. And this is what a statement by Pakistan's Finance Ministry had to say about this. Let me quote. The committee, after deliberation, decided to include Pakistan International Airlines Company Limited in the list of active privatization projects of the ongoing privatization program, following an amendment in the law by the Parliament. Now, all said and done, the question is, who is even going to buy the PIA? Just 3 years back, it was involved in a fake pilot scandal. Fake pilot scandal. The airline had hired fake pilots without a valid license. The revelation was made by the International Civil Aviation Organization. This is a specialized agency of the United Nations that works to ensure safety in international air transport. It said that the Pakistan Civil Aviation Authority had failed to meet international norms, especially the ones related to personnel licensing, processing and training. And this revelation, by the way, came just 2 months after Pakistan's Civil Aviation Minister had disclosed that over 262 Pakistani pilots held fake credentials. And out of this, 141 pilots belonged to the PIA. Now, for the unversed, Pakistan has a total of 860 active pilots. Out of this, 262 pilots did not give the examinations required to become a pilot. Instead, They asked someone else to sit on their behalf. That's around 30% of the overall strength of pilots. And what did Pakistan do to address this? You'll be shocked to hear this. It cleared 110 pilots out of the 141 accused of possessing fake licenses. Can you imagine that? Forget banning these pilots for life. Pakistan hired them back, notwithstanding the many crashes this airline has been involved in. In fact, in May 2020, a PIA plane crashed in Karachi, killing 97 people. It was an Airbus A320 aircraft. It had around 91 passengers and a crew of 8 people. It crashed into Karachi's Jinnah Garden area. Minutes before landing, only 2 passengers miraculously survived that crash. And in December 2016, a PIA flight 661 crashed in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Havelian district. The crash killed all 47 people on board. What caused the crash? A report released in 2020 said, technical faults. We wonder whose fault it was talking about. And these are not standalone incidents, by the way. Till date, this airline has lost more than 30 aircraft in crashes and other events. Who on earth could possibly buy such an airline? Who in their right mind would be brave enough to take that risk? Not international buyers for sure. It would be safe to presume that someone from Pakistan itself might get forced to do the bidding. And staying with Pakistan, the country's flag carrier is not the only one suffering. So is the country's politics. It is in a state of mess, to say the least. Pakistan's former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, has been jailed, and now it seems the current leaders are scared about their future as well. I am talking about Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, Pakistan's foreign minister. On the 7th of August, he spoke in the country's parliament about the ongoing political mess. He said he recently told the PMLN Supremo Nawaz Sharif that his party and government should take such decisions which make his future life and that of other young leaders like Maryam Nawaz easy and not difficult. He said the ways of the current leaders are outdated. They are still making political decisions the way they did some 30 years ago. Listen to this.
मेरा एक स्टेटमेंट था एक हफ्ते पहले शायद आज, जहां मैंने सदर जरदारी को और मियां नवाज शरीफ को अपील किया कि मियां साहब को और जरदारी साहब को ऐसे फैसले लेना चाहिए जिससे मेरे लिए और मरियम शरीफ साहिबा के लिए आगे जाके सियासत आसान हो, मुश्किल ना हो। और जिस तरीके से हम चल रहे हैं, ऐसे लगता है कि हमारा बरो ने फैसला किया है कि जो 30 साल आप लोगों ने सियासत भुगता है, वैसे ही आप चाहते हो कि आगे जाके 30 साल हम सियासत करें।
Well, you heard that. It seems they want us to function like they did. Now, what was he talking about? This Bilawal Bhutto did not reveal, but it does not take a genius to guess. By all means, he was referring to the arrest of Imran Khan. The fact that he has been convicted on a corruption charge, disqualified from running for office, and sentenced to prison for 3 years. Yes, the verdict may have been given by a court, but many believe it was given under pressure from the Pakistan government with an eye on the upcoming general elections. Elections which they are scared of losing because of the kind of popular support that Imran Khan and his party PTI enjoy. So was Bilawal Bhutto trying to assert that jailing Imran Khan is a mistake? That it sets the wrong precedent for the country's future leaders? Was he trying to say that this gives an excuse to the PTI to jail its opponents if it were to come to power? That this decision will only escalate the generational feud that the country's politicians have been fighting? You see, Pakistan has a history of rulers jailing their political opponents. And this, by the way, includes Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's father himself, Asif Ali Zardari. In February 2002, he was imprisoned over corruption charges. Interestingly, he was kept in the Attock Fort, a medieval fortress perched over the Indus River between Islamabad and Peshawar. This is the same place where Imran Khan is apparently being kept. And that's not even all. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was also incarcerated at this prison. This was in July 2000. When he was sentenced to 14 years of rigorous imprisonment. His brother, Shehbaz Sharif, has also been to this jail. So has Nawaz Sharif's elder son, Hussain Nawaz. They were all made to face accountability trials in this jail's premises. And now Imran Khan is in the very same prison. So when Bilawal Bhutto says that Pakistan cannot function the way it did 30 years back, he essentially is calling out the mistakes made by his predecessors, by his father's generation, by his seniors in the current administration. In a nutshell, he wants to save his future from the past. Shifting focus for now, our next story is from the United States. Last week, ratings agency Fitch downgraded US credit rating. And a week on, the country has been dealt another financial setback, this time from Moody's, one of America's premier business and financial services company. On Monday, Moody's downgraded the credit ratings of several US banks by one notch. And it further warned it was checking the status of some of the country's biggest lenders. In other words, it has placed some other American banking giants on review for potential downgrades. And the agency also, by the way, changed its outlook to negative for several major lenders. So overall, it has changed the assessments of 27 banks in the sector. 27. The list of the downgraded banks, specifically including M&T Bank, Pinnacle Financial Partners, Prosperity Bank, BOK Financial Corporation. And if I speak of the banks placed on review for downgrade, the list includes BNY Mellon, US Bancorp, State Street, and Trust Financial. Now, what is the reason behind the downgrade? I'll tell you what Moody's has said in a note. Let me quote from it. Many banks' Q2 results showed growing profitability pressures that will reduce their ability to generate internal capital. This comes as a mild recession looms and banks contend with greater risks from interest rates and managing their assets and liabilities. Immediately after this decision was announced, the markets were alarmed. A lot of bank stocks tumbled. US Bancorp fell 2.2%. Wall Street was down 1.2%. Truist shares declined by 1.6%. Even big banks like JP Morgan Chase and the Bank of America fell down 1.5% and 1.9% respectively. The fallout is tragic, and what's worse, it comes amid a series of financial troubles. Like I said, last week, Fitch Ratings downgraded the US sovereign credit grade, or what is popularly called the long-term foreign currency issuer default rating. It was downgraded by one level. From a rating of AAA, it came down to AA+. Why is that? Because of America's ballooning fiscal deficit, also erosion of governance. This is what Fitch said in a statement. The rating downgrade of the United States reflects the expected physical deterioration over the next 3 years, a high and growing general government debt burden, and the erosion of governance over the last 2 decades that has manifested in repeated debt limit standoffs and last-minute resolutions. For the unversed, the credit rating reflects the credit worthiness of an individual, company, or government. So basically, you can say that Fitch has downgraded America's credit worthiness. And now Moody's has downgraded the credit rating of several banks. How should we view this? The obvious questions that come to mind are, is this a banking crisis? Are these signs of a recession? No, say experts. Like the chief economist of JP Morgan Chase, he says the bank is no longer forecasting a US recession this year. In fact, it has raised its economic growth estimate as the economy expands at a quote-unquote healthy pace. And if we quantify this, the firm has increased its current quarter real annualized GDP growth estimate to 2.5% from 0.5%. So what is this then, and why are American banks being downgraded? Why has America's own credit rating been downgraded? Well, the answer is America's budget deficit. It shrank last year, but now it's widening again. So these downgrades are nothing but signals that America needs to get its budgetary process in order. Are you single? Have you been looking for your perfect partner? Your other half, your soulmate, perhaps. If you believe in them, now what if the government played Cupid and helped you find love, is the immediate question. South Korea is doing exactly that. Local Korean governments are setting up the country's youth on dates. You heard that right. And as the authorities play matchmaker, dating giant Tinder seems to be going off track. It is demanding $500 from its users for monthly subscription. Are you willing to pay that price for love? More in our next report.
In Seongnam City, just outside of the South Korean capital Seoul, a hotel ballroom was filled with pink balloons. The sound of love songs echoed. 100 singles gathered for a night of wine and dine. A bar after party would follow. If things went as planned, many would go home with another date planned. Who was the matchmaker? Who organized this evening of romance? None other than the city government. It was one of the many blind dating events happening all over South Korea. But why is the government sponsoring them? As you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. Here, the desperation is fueled by an increased disinterest in marriage and a plummeting fertility rate. South Korea has recorded the world's lowest fertility rate for 3 years in a row. The government is trying hard to nudge young adults towards a married life. It wants its youth to settle down and start a family. A negative attitude towards marriage is spreading in the South Korean society. That's what the authorities believe. The proportion of people getting married has decreased worldwide, but in South Korea, the decline is staggering. Let's look at some numbers. In 2021, there were 6 marriages per 1,000 people in the United States. In South Korea, there were only 3.8. Fewer marriages mean fewer births. In 2022, South Korea's fertility rate declined to 0.78. It dropped for the 7th year straight. Some say young South Koreans just don't want to get married. But is that really the case? What does the youth think? They blame it on the market. There are staggering costs of childcare, unaffordable homes, slim job prospects, and crushing work hours. And then there is discrimination against working mothers. Blind dating events can get youngsters in the same room, but can they really address these issues? Some complain that by playing matchmaker, the government is being too intrusive when it comes to personal reproductive choices. The city of Seongnam is home to about 1 million people. Its government has allocated about $192,000 of its budget for such events. But are these events even feasible? Let's see. Jinju City has been hosting these events for 12 years. It has produced 11 couples so far. In the city of Gumi, 13 couples have gotten married in 7 years. How many children did the event match couples have? The officials don't know. So what gives? Why not invest all that money towards better childcare, towards something that would actually make a difference? Here the government is burning dollars to set up bachelors together. And then there is Tinder asking for dollars to do the same thing. No small amount, but $500 every month. The dating giant is planning to launch a new high-end membership. For the time being, it's called Tinder Vault. Why does it cost a bomb? What exactly is on the table? Will it help the users find better partners? Well, Tinder is promising an even more fun experience. and quality matches for exclusive users. Take it the way you want to. Romance scams, by the way, are among the most common type of online frauds. Losses run in millions of dollars. Scammers prey on people's need for love and finding a connection. This can make them vulnerable to manipulation. But how will eligible bachelors react to $500 subscriptions? Is it a price they are willing to pay for love? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Almost every day we find a new reason to fear artificial intelligence. And here's another addition to that long list. AI, it seems, can steal your password. And it does not matter if you are using AI tech yourself or not. So how does this work? And should you be scared? What can you do to actually keep your passwords safe? Let's break it down for you bit by bit. Before I tell you more about it, let's just go back in time a little. It was the year 1956. The Suez Crisis was in its prime. The British spy master Peter Wright had a rather clever plan. He planted a bug in the cipher room of the Egyptian embassy in London. And that bug recorded the sounds of the typewriter keys on the Egyptians' cipher machines. It helped MI5 recover the Egyptians' secret key. And 67 years on, British researchers have come up with a modern version of this very technique. And this time, it's even simpler to crack the code because we have better technology. We have AI, artificial intelligence. The basic functioning is quite similar. The password stealer would first record the sounds of your keyboard as you type in your password. And then based on those sounds, artificial intelligence would decode what was typed. And just like that, your password would be stolen. How did the researchers do this? Is it really that simple to crack into someone's personal accounts? Let's see. Experts from Durham, Surrey and Royal Holloway universities developed this password stealer. First, they trained their AI model by pressing each of the 36 keys on a MacBook Pro. They did it not once or twice, but 25 times, and they recorded the sound. Each key, you see, has a unique audio or voice sound. It can be used to identify which alphabet or character is being pressed. And the information was then fed into the AI. All this data was enough for the artificial intelligence to identify the pattern. And then the experts placed an iPhone about 17 centimeters away from the same MacBook and recorded the typing. The AI was able to catch the password with 95% accuracy. And when the researchers recorded the typing over a Zoom call, the accuracy was 93%. However, the AI system does not work the same way for every keyboard. The model must be trained separately for each keyboard. It needs additional references to understand what character each keystroke corresponds to. But the basic method remains the same. So it's not very difficult to train AI for separate keyboards. Apple users are already at risk now. With their simple device, the experts have proved how vulnerable our data is in the age of AI. And with the development of artificial intelligence, we have become a lot more prone to cyber attacks. Just think of the times you use your phone or laptop in public spaces, working at a cafe, at an airport, typing away all your passwords. And why just passwords? Even personal texts as you chat with a friend. Criminals and spies can record your typing and decode it. Even applications on your devices may do this. Think of all those apps that you use that use your microphone. The apps that use your microphone. Do you realize how proliferated our lives are with mics? So the question is, what can you do to protect your password? Here are some simple ways. Number one being use strong and complex passwords. That's basic. Include multiple cases, characters, numbers. it becomes difficult for AI to decode such passwords. Large language models like ChatGPT, in fact, can predict succeeding characters to complete words. So if your password contains full words, it is at a higher risk of being cracked. So avoid using complete words. Number 2, use biometrics. Instead of using a passcode or a password, stick to Touch ID or Face ID wherever possible. You will not have to type out anything and you will be safe from an AI cyber attack. Number 3, turn off your keypad sound. While you cannot do much for a laptop, you can silence the keypads of your mobile devices. Since nobody would be able to record you typing, your password would be safer. Experts also suggest, by the way, that Apple should consider adding random noises into keystrokes, and this would ward off side channel attacks. For those unversed, side channel attacks get signals from a device using acoustics, power consumption, and electromagnetic waves. But my question is, how many precautionary measures can you possibly take? We will come up with a solution and then AI can still outsmart us. You know, be it our jobs, internet browsing, dating, religion, passwords, artificial intelligence seems to be invading all domains and areas. And this needs to end somewhere. Shifting focus for now to Israel. The government has hinted that it might be willing to give concessions to Palestine in order to normalize ties with Saudi Arabia. You heard that right. But the question is, if this does happen, how will the region be impacted? What are the implications? Our next report explores.
US President Joe Biden recently hinted that a rapprochement may be underway between Israel and Saudi Arabia. In late July, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan visited Riyadh, while US normalization envoy Dan Shapiro visited Jerusalem. As with every negotiation, each side has its demands, as well as requests from the US, such as a NATO-like security alliance. Saudi Arabia would like to see significant Israeli concessions to the Palestinians, such as a freeze on Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank, to keep prospects of a two-state solution alive. However, it's not certain that the ultra-nationalist parties in Netanyahu's coalition government, led by Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, would agree to such concessions. In an interview with US media, Netanyahu hinted that political questions won't block normalization, which he has called one of the top priorities of his government. He said, "If there's political will, there will be a political way to achieve normalization and a formal peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia." But how would this translate, and what does it mean for the Palestinians? Netanyahu suggested that it would mean giving the Palestinians all the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten Israel. Otherwise, in his words, it won't be their own state. It will be an Iranian-controlled state. It's not yet clear how the Palestinians would respond to this. On Thursday, Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki said that Palestinians want to ensure that any normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel includes some guarantee of their right to an independent state. As well as Israeli concessions, normalization would see an unprecedentedly large Saudi aid package to Palestinian institutions in the West Bank. Netanyahu also talked about a natural economic corridor of energy, transport and communications running from Asia through the Arabian Peninsula and Israel to Europe, and suggested that this would happen with or without a formal peace agreement. Faisal Abbas, editor-in-chief of the Saudi Arab News, wrote this week that it is highly likely that normalization might be possible. And in the latest, US energy envoy Amos Hochstein, who has been involved in the normalization talks with Saudi Arabia, could reportedly take the option to Lebanon too when he visits in mid-August. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World as One.
Do looks matter in a professional space? If you are attractive, can it help you make bigger bucks? And if you are not, will that hurt your career? These are debatable topics. Deep down, you might feel that looks do have some role to play. You may already know about what's called as pretty privilege. You know how good-looking people tend to get special treatment. But studies show that this privilege is not just limited to social interactions, it makes its presence felt in workspaces as well. You heard that right. Attractive people tend to earn more money than average-looking people. Can you believe that? It's dubbed as the beauty premium. Have a look at this Harvard study. It is titled, Why Beauty Matters. The study claims workers of above average beauty earn about 10% to 15% more. The beauty premium is even greater for attractive men. They close more deals, are more likely to get leadership roles as well. Have you noticed this around you? How CEOs or presidential candidates are generally tall men, better-looking job seekers are more likely to get hired. Why does this even happen? What explains this bias? And if you are not born with the best of facial features, is your career doomed? And is that even fair? You see, it's all about the confidence levels. Those who are physically attractive know that they look good. They have a greater sense of power, more effective non-verbal presence. This confidence often leads to better communication skills, which employers interpret as competence. And with that, it seems, comes higher pay and more growth opportunities. But is that unfair? Yes, to some extent it is, but you need not worry too much about it. Employers do not tend to favor attractiveness over work experience or skills. It's more like a side benefit. In fact, studies show that if you have the required work experience and knowledge, and you also happen to be good looking, then you are likely to land a well-paying job. But if you are not that conventionally attractive, as they say, it still will not hurt your career. How can you turn this bias in your favor? Experts say by grooming yourself well. They say dress for the job you want. If you have a job interview, find out the corporate culture and dress accordingly. In fact, you can even take it up a notch and wear an attire slightly above the role you have applied for. The goal essentially is to show that you belong there, to make a subtle impression that you are the right fit. That's right. Take a look at this study. It mentions that a well-groomed person earns more money. For instance, a woman of average attractiveness makes about $6,000 more annually than averagely groomed woman. She also makes about $4,000 more than her better-looking, but less put-together colleague. So you see, it's not just the features, but also how you present yourself. Number two, appear confident. That's very important. No matter how you look, if you are confident and likable, chances are you will get the job. Next time you appear for an interview, pay attention to your body language, sit up straight or stand tall, maintain eye contact, and definitely smile more. At the end of the day, beauty standards are a social construct, and they keep evolving with time. Back in the day, those who looked good were assumed to be healthy. And we still tend to carry that same bias subconsciously. But with some confidence, you can overcome that bias. I want to end the show by telling you about something that happened on board a flight. It's a story that stands out for multiple reasons. But before I get to it, let me ask you this. Imagine you are on a flight. The flight attendant asks you, would you like something sweet or savory? You prefer savory at that point, and you possibly get some peanuts. How many? A packet? Maybe you want some more, 2 packets, maybe 3. What if you end up buying 48 packets of peanuts on board the flight? Well, that is exactly what a UK woman actually did. I know that sounds like a lot, but as they say, desperate times call for desperate measures. As per the woman, she bought every single packet of peanuts on the flight. But why did she do that? Why did she buy 48 packets of peanuts? As per this report, the woman has a severe nut allergy. And she has claimed that she had no choice but to buy all those packets of peanuts because the cabin crew, as per the report, ignored her request to not serve them. Basically, she did not want anyone opening a packet of peanuts while she was inside the aircraft. And according to this report, the woman has said that she has asked the staff on the Eurowings flight to announce her allergy to passengers and request that they don't buy or eat peanuts. She claims her concerns were dismissed by the crew, and so she ended up buying all the packets of peanuts. You know how much she spent? 144 euros. That, by the way, is almost thrice the airfare price that she shelled out, almost 3 times. And the woman now wants a refund. This report in The Independent carries a statement by a Eurowings spokesperson, according to which the woman was not forced to buy all packages of peanuts on board. The statement says the purser tried to offer her an alternative solution by informing all passengers sitting around her about the allergy, and that she agreed at first, but then decided to still buy all the packages, as per the statement. And the airline says it is unable to guarantee that the aircraft is free of foodstuffs that may trigger an allergic reaction, such as peanuts, because passengers are allowed to bring their own food on board. And the report also mentions that the spokesperson said the medically trained cabin crew always have access to medication to provide emergency medical care in the event of an intolerance or allergic shock on board. The thing is, when it comes to allergies, the policies of airlines on allergies vary a lot. And this latest incident has once again brought that issue back in the spotlight. Let's now tell you what else made news around the world. Time for Gravitas Global Headlines.
India bars domestic military drone manufacturers from using Chinese components. Reuters report says that India has taken the decision over concerns about security vulnerabilities. Pakistan shelves the multi-billion-dollar gas pipeline project to import cheap energy from neighboring Iran. Media reports suggest the decision comes in the wake of pressure from the US, which has imposed sanctions against Iran over its nuclear program. Standoff between China and Philippines continues over South China Sea. Beijing urges Manila to remove a grounded warship that it calls illegal from a reef in the disputed Spratly Islands. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak unveils a voluntary partnership between social media companies and the government to accelerate action to tackle people smuggling content online, such as criminals sharing information about illegal channel crossings. Australian police have arrested 19 men for allegedly sharing child abuse material online. They also saved 13 children from further harm after receiving intelligence from the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. We are, as always, leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.
Bye bye. No, we don't want to do that. Alright. Because you're so cool. Come here. Because you're the coolest dog I've ever known. I love you too. You're a sweetheart. I want you to come home with me.